Welcome to Think and Drink Podcast, episode 36, I think. I'm Yash and as always, I'm joined by Ryan Cadby. And today we have a very special episode. We are joined by the very first guest, Joshua Teets, the ultimate enabler, the ultimate construction man. He builds towers and tangible things like buildings with rocks. It's very cool. Josh, thanks for joining us today. I know we have a lot of different topics to talk about, but why don't you tell the audience, the folks, a little bit about yourself? Who are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm a construction professional living in Phoenix, Arizona, originally from the Carolinas. I met Yash and Ryan here at Arizona State University back in 2014, I believe. I think it's been quite a while. Time flies. So I've been in the construction industry since I graduated in 2018. I'm a project manager for a local general contractor specializing in industrial construction types. So no, I don't build any towers, but I do build things with rocks. So good
You
on
well, no,
that
you were
one.
telling me you build pretty big buildings. What's the thing you call it when you stand up a concrete wall that you build on the ground?
A tilt panel building. Yeah,
Yeah, dude, that's like
built some of
borderline
those.
skyscraper. How tall can you tilt?
We had a tilt panel that was about 87 feet tall, which is one of the tallest in the country. Definitely the tallest in the state of Arizona. But
But what? Okay, wait. Back. Tilt. So, what does it mean by tilt? Like it's a tilt panel building? Like it's a teepee?
not well, it stands straight up. So
Okay.
you pour a concrete wall on the ground, and then you get a big crane and you tilt it up, and then you put some braces that hold it like a kind of
Okay.
like a teepee, and then eventually
Oh,
you have steel structures that connect all the tilt panels, and you get like a concrete box.
you still have to pour a foundation first.
Yes, yes, it sits on a foundation. Yeah, they're
And
very popular here in Arizona because concrete's pretty cheap. It's cheap to get it up, and it's super quick. Once you get those walls up, I mean, you essentially have a building. So, I mean, I think we've done some massive warehouses in 8 months from ground up to moving in. So,
wow.
yeah,
So in the chain of like, so you say general contractor. As I know
yes,
contractors, there's like a food chain of contractors, right? Like there's like if you, in the realm of if I like let's say a commercial developer or something, I buy a plot of land and I'm like I want to build a 30,000 foot warehouse there.
okay.
Who do I go to you first as the person to build it, or do you go or do like how does that like where do you land?
Yeah, so you can definitely we do get some of that where we'll get, a company, they own a plot of land, they want to get a budget. Usually they come to us for a budget and they say, what would this cost? And we give them some rough budgets. But the next step there would be to engage an architect and an engineer and actually create, a set of plans and go through that design process. And then that's when we really get involved in planning and helping them plan and then submitting to the city and actually building the warehouse or whatever it ends up being. So
But then you would in the building. Do you subcontract out then?
yeah, so that's what it really means to be a true general contractor is we're involved with the running of the general construction on the site, but my company personally does not self-perform anything, meaning we don't actually nobody in my company is out there swinging a hammer, putting up steel or anything like that. We sub that out to subcontractors, or now the trade market really is calling them trade partners because they are our partner in the job. And so we give out contracts to do different scopes, and then we manage all the scopes under our umbrella.
In the subcontract or subcontract out work?
Yeah, so that would be a second tier subcontractor, and we get those all the time. Yeah.
Second tier partner.
Yeah, second tier partner. The subcontract really just comes in because that's what the contract type is written in. So we have a prime contract with the owner, so that's our number one contract, and then almost anything under that prime contract is going to be a subcontract, and that's where the terminology comes from.
Oh, if everything goes wrong, it's your fault.
Yeah, where's the liability fall in this? That's what I was gonna ask.
It depends on the contract type and what the prime contract
But like
states. A lot of
in your
the
standard prime contract, are
a
you
lot of
guys
what we do, we pass on that liability up and down, you know. So
Nice. Deflect.
It's called managing risk. That is part of my job as a project manager is managing my company's exposure to risk. And so we do that with a number of ways. Good
Uh,
planning is always a good one. Good budgeting, always a good one. But yes, having a good contract is definitely a part of that, managing your exposure to risk.
Okay, so like that's like what I think you were telling me one time about the needing to push like if your project deadline date like time, right, is you have to fix the scope of the work or something like that.
Hmm.
That still comes up to you. It's you're talking straight to the client and you're like, yo, this is
Yeah.
we need to fix this.
Yeah. So we're all in almost 99.9% of contracts, you're tied to some sort of contractual end date or duration for your scope of work. And so if you have things that push like weather in Arizona, if we get rain or something, we can't work. There's weather days that get added on, so it's interfacing with the client on that sort of thing. So
Do you do that or do you like say, hey, this is gonna be like this and then you have like someone who like communicates?
no, I do that. Yeah, I haven't always done that, but as my role now, that is part of my purview.
Have you
You
ever had
like
it?
it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, was there any bad interaction like out of that?
It depends on the client, honestly. There's definitely clients that you don't want to piss off, and those harder conversations are a little bit harder. They're never easy. I mean, you never want to go to someone with bad news, but we do have a kind of a motto around my company. It's like bad news early, good news late, and basically that comes from like if you get bad news, let's even if it's still wishy-washy, let's bring it up to the client. And then on the opposite, if you get some good news and you think you got great news and you give it to the client and then something happens and that good news goes away, now you look like you created some bad news when in actuality you're right where you were. So try and give that good
Oh,
news kind of late after it's 100% sure that your that good thing is happening.
yeah, that's good. I've definitely screwed myself
Yeah.
over. I'm like, all right, guys. I literally told like, hey, like 98% sure we're gonna get access to this one thing,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be able to do this super smooth.
Yeah.
2 weeks of deliberation later, no access. Went totally sideways. It was terrible.
Yeah, and that's happened before where it's like, hey, we saved $100,000 and then we had something come up where it was, $20,000. And so then we had to go back to the owner and say, hey, we had this thing come up that was 20,000. It's going to cost you $20,000. When in actuality, if I would have just waited a little bit, I could have been like, hey, I saved you $80,000. So it's just kind of weird, client relations, that sort of thing.
Do you
Yeah.
know like are the clients who pay you the most, are they the biggest sticklers? Because something Ryan have talked about is like usually the people who pay you the least amount of money are the ones who are like the biggest hassle to deal with.
Yes and no. We do public and private work, and so there's public entities are a little bit more paper work dependent because you're getting paid out of like tax dollars. So there's a whole lot of things that go into that. Private entities are a little bit different because it's private money that's feeding you, so they don't require near as much, I guess, backup and paperwork.
Oversight.
Yeah, exactly. So public work tends to be a little bit more on the private side. I would tend to agree with you. The people that are paying you the least seem like they're causing you the most problems. But I think that's a mental thing too. I think you're just like you're doing the ROI calculation on your own time in your own head, and
Mm.
you're like, this is not passing what I think it should be. But I think that's
Oh,
human
I've
I've
nature.
never
never.
looked at it like that.
I was gonna say, I feel like in the YouTube entrepreneur like freaking rabbit hole, they always tell you, no, raise your prices, you'll deal with better people. Like you won't have to deal with that. But then now that you've kind of shattered the glass on that one there, and you're
Well, I
like,
just yeah,
man,
I
really?
think you see it in your mind and you're like, I don't think necessarily the clients get any easier. You just get more accustomed and more willing to endure the the pain because you're making that extra money. But
Yeah, I like that outlook. I've never looked at it like
it
that.
could be
Never
completely
once.
wrong. Maybe that's what I do. I don't know.
No, reflecting now, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's a big part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's a big part of
I do
it.
think there is part of it though. The people that are paying that much for it usually have gone through the process. So, like for instance, in construction, like when we do a building strictly for like an end user, like someone that's gonna, like if we're building a building for a person that's gonna own and occupy and work out of that building that has never built a building before, it's always more of a challenge than when you're working directly with a developer who builds all across the country. They've done this 100 times. They're not actually physically going to live or work or, occupy that building ever. They're going to sub it out to a new tenant. Those typically seem to be the easier ones, just because they've done this 100 times. They know what to expect. They know what the budget should be. They know what the schedule should be. They know the questions to ask. They know when you're lying. They know when you're being too short. So it's those sort of things that I think helps. And so for you guys, when people are paying you a lot of money, that's usually that because they've built a website or they know marketing or that sort of thing. So that could be a little bit easier.
Yeah. I feel like they know that usually you pay for what you get is pretty true, and I would imagine in construction it's exactly the same.
Yes, you do.
Did you always know you were wanted to get into this?
No.
Did you go to college and you're like, I'm gonna do or did you start like civil engineering, or did you start like?
So I moved across the country from the Carolinas over to ASU because ASU had the first accredited school of sustainability, actually. So believe it or not, I was going the big like green energy, stop pollution, that sort of thing, which is still stuff that I think is good to do. But I got into that. I was like 2 or 3 semesters at ASU in that, and it was just a whole lot. It's such a new program, or at that time it was even more new than it is now. There wasn't a whole lot of like jobs after college other than like consulting going into just these green initiatives and sustainability. And so it wasn't really panning out the way I thought it was going to do. And so I clearly just pivoted to one of the most unsustainable practices.
Were you looking for like internships and like realizing this like during college?
Yeah.
Or like, because my experience was so much different. Like I was not even looking at I wasn't even thinking about after college. I was like, oh, this just sounds cool now, and I'm just gonna do it. And it sounds like you were much more like tactical about your
pragmatic.
Well, I think my goal was I didn't want to go home for the summer, and so like I wanted to find a job like that or an internship that was going to take me and put me somewhere else in the country, or even staying in Arizona would have been cool. And because I like part of my like exodus out west from the Carolinas was I wanted to get away. I wanted to see the rest of the country. And so that was like day one at ASU. I was like, I'm going to like look for internships. And I just started looking, and a lot of the internships that were out there were like unpaid research. And, I'm a college kid, so I can't really afford to move around the country on an unpaid research like type of thing, even though I cared about it. But so, yeah, I was always in that mindset of like, I don't want to go back to the Carolinas. Like, what can I do to find a job to go anywhere else? And there wasn't a ton of internships and sustainability at that point. So then, yeah, I did pivot into, like I said, construction. I mean, general construction is not, I think most people would not consider that a very sustainable practice. We just kind of tear things up and we build it. But I think we're working towards the right.
Well, and cement is like one of the most polluting like process for making cement is like pollutes the most out of like it's like you could combine all the like cars and like airplane pollution and it doesn't pay. It's like doesn't even touch cement.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like there are things that are getting better about construction and more sustainable initiatives, but from my experience out in Arizona is most, if not all of those cost more money. And so when it comes to like a private client and it comes down to the bottom of the line of, hey, will this project go or will not go, and the budget's tight and you're chopping things, those sustainable initiatives and added costs are the first things to go because they're the least actual required. And so things are getting a little bit better with like building codes and like energy efficiency codes, and those are getting updated. So I think construction will get more sustainable as we make people pay for that extra level of efficiency. But
And I feel like the things you build like sustainably, there's also no evidence that they last just as long as our unsustainable practices, right?
Yeah.
It's like cement is like tried and true. You know how long that wall you
Yeah.
built is gonna be
Yeah,
there.
you could definitely say that. I think a lot of because on the private or on the public side, Arizona State University, you can't build anything for them that's not LEED silver, and LEED is just like a sustainability accreditation that you get during construction and design. And so for that aspect, I mean, they are tracking a whole lot of data, and they do pay to do this, and it is cool, but like I said, it just costs more money, and it's something that you got to kind of put your whole heart behind and go for it.
So what's the incentive to get LEED certified? Like, is it a tax write-off, or like why would someone
Yeah,
pay that much for
I
a
couldn't
building?
answer that with any form of confidence. I assume there's probably some tax incentive to do it. Other than that, I mean, there's got to
I
be
think there
some sort of
is.
like kickback for
Yeah.
taxes, and then I think it's just as a marketing tool. Like the only private companies that I've seen go down any rabbit hole like LEED, because there's a couple other ones that now there's like well building and things like that, are the brands that are really interested in like cleaning up their overall brand image around that whole like green initiative and things like that. So like I know, test like the TSMCs, the Intels of the at least the Arizona world, these big like chip manufacturers, like those guys have all this money, and they're in an industry that's quite they have a lot of pollution, I'll say. And so I've seen companies like that kind of take initiatives to be green and things like of that nature, but I don't think it's widespread yet.
Well,
Mm.
isn't it like if your building's like more efficient, like couldn't you like rationalize it as like you don't like for ASU, like your
Mhm.
air conditioning bill might be cheaper, right? Like as part of it, like you're just using better
Yeah,
materials for
yeah.
those types
Well,
of
and
things.
I think we're gonna get to a place if LEED were to not get updated, like their requirements were not to be updated beyond this point. I think in about 10 years, the local like building codes and like efficient and energy efficiency codes and just the sheer like products that, these lighting and HVAC companies are coming up with, we're going to surpass the LEED requirements in 10 years. I mean, you're just not going to be able to, yeah, you're
Using
not going
like
to be
standard
able to buy
like
a light
products.
fixture that's not LED high efficiency. You're not going to be able to buy these massive HVAC units that aren't, somewhat efficient and, keeping your energy costs down. So the other part of the lead is all the like the reporting
Mm.
stuff. So like you have to track like where all your materials are coming from. Like you get bonus points for lead for sourcing materials locally. So for us, like we get a whole lot of cement locally because that's where it comes from. But well, a lot of our steel comes right from here. But if you lived in a rural, place in Texas or West Texas, and you are shipping in joists from, Arkansas, and you're shipping in, equipment from Connecticut and wherever it is, you have to track all of that like equipment to your site as part of the overall impact of your construction.
So like they're the cigarettes of the people who are like welding together your prefab, like just like yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um, dang.
Yeah, a lot goes
So
into it
I
for
didn't
sure.
realize it was that far reaching. Like so they're tracking like the carbon footprint of the transportation of goods too.
That yeah, I
Is
mean,
that your responsibility?
so when you get like the ASU, I'm on an ASU project right now, and that it will be lead, and we're still going through the responsibility of that. A lot of it gets put on the design team of they need to specify, the certain equipment.
architects, when you say design team,
Yeah,
like the architecture.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah. So architects, and then you get a mechanical engineer, usually a structural engineer, electrical engineer. This one we've got like a controls engineer. There's some other smaller ones that we've got like a acoustical analysis engineer who's analyzing the sounds that our building puts off, things of that nature. So
That's so cool. Is there a market or an industry for like being a like you said, a sustainability like consultant? Like, could you open
oh
up your own
yeah.
firm and be like, you consult with like people like your current place, right? And you're like, hey, you hire me, I make it really easy. I know exactly like the steps, the process, how to make it. So you're like lead whatever.
No, I think if I were to be going to school now with that same kind of dream that I had back in 2014 when I went to school, I think there's a ton more opportunities. They like the entry level opportunities are not going to be going direct to consultants, but like I said, there's so many more brands out there now that are like trying to do better by their, whole sustainability green effort around their brand that I think there are more jobs and more opportunities to get people thinking that way. I think a lot has changed, even though 2014 doesn't feel that long ago for me. We've come a long way in that regard, I believe.
That's what, 9 years ago?
Something like that.
Almost.
Yeah, man.
Wait, so okay. So going back to this like thought, you quickly learned I want an internship. I don't want to move back home. So you're like, all right, maybe the sustainability thing eventually it'll be like something.
Yeah.
I had a similar thing happen with me and like my professor for biomedical engineering. He goes, honestly, if you don't get a PhD, you're not going to do much because it's too new of two fields fused together that they're like you either go pick mechanical or you pick biomedical.
Yeah.
But don't come together just yet because the field's really new. And so he's like, I don't want a PhD, right? So you figured that out, right? You're like, okay, like there's no jobs here. I need to get a job. So why construction like manager? Because it's like adjacent, I guess. It's like still like you're impacting the environment, whether good for the bad.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I think I had a background in construction. I liked engineering. I liked mathematics. So I did go the civil engineering route for a little bit, but I definitely saw myself more in like the business of construction than actually designing. Like, I don't think I could ever do that design route, like in the School of Architecture, or even what Ryan has done in, his design. I don't have an eye for design, but if you give me a set of plans, like I can do that, I can budget, I can schedule, like that really interests me more than the actual technical of how things come together. So
how did you figure that out? Because I had to ask a bunch of people, like, what do you do every day? Right? It's like you're a mechanical engineer. I thought you build stuff. It's like, no, you sit in CAD drawings and you write on paper. Like, you don't build anything. So I was like, what would you say if someone was to do, like, evaluating their job, like what major to do or anything? Like, did you have any, like, classes you took or, like, people you talked to figure out if this was actually going to be the job for you or the major?
yeah, I had a couple like intro classes because, like you said, the sustainability school is actually in the engineering school, and it was kind of a part of that whole thing. And so one of my like freshman electives was a construction class, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But I did work construction jobs growing up, like with some custom home builders in North Carolina, and then with like a commercial pool and outdoor amenity contractor in South Carolina. So it was like I had some sort of background. I liked working outside. I liked working with the tradesmen. So like it was kind of always an option. And then I don't know. I think after you switch your major once, like what's one more time? Like if that one failed, we'll just go on to the next one. Maybe I'll get a business degree. I don't know. I wasn't too worried back then, but.
That was my question because, I was going to ask, I didn't realize you changed your major 3 times. I mean, I changed my major 3 times, so it's not so like... Yeah. But, that's...
Yeah, and I graduated on time, so it was all good. I think as long as you stay kind of within the, adjacent majors, you'll be fine, so.
Yeah. I didn't graduate on time, but that's all right.
Well, yeah, I think it's very major dependent, I guess I'll say.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
I guess I did have some summer school.
I also did not technically graduate on time. I definitely walked on time. I definitely got hired and was definitely only 2 months away. And I was like, I still got to take a couple classes.
I didn't know that. That's what I did too. I had 2 classes to take over. Like I walked with everyone, and then I had 2 or 3 summer classes.
You must have been sneaky because I didn't know that about you. I just assumed you were done with the rest of us.
Oh no, dude! I was still in school. Yeah.
No, it was bad. I had to give like a official transcript You can only get that if you're actually graduating. You get an unofficial one the entire time. So I was telling the lady, like the hiring man, I'm like, no, yeah, like it's just a weird processing issue. I'll get it, but definitely before my start date. And so I'm like, okay.
That's
Well,
funny.
do you think it was for you, Ryan? I guess Yasha, you can answer the question too. Do you think college was 100% necessary for what you do on a day-to-day basis?
That's a great question. Ryan,
Not just
take it away. Take it away,
not
Ryan.
just getting hired, but like to actually, because I do think there's a whole argument about getting hired and needing that college degree to stand out on paper, but to actually compute and do exactly what you do on a daily basis. What do you think?
For me, no, I didn't really learn what I do in school, to be honest. I like learned it all after school. I mean, design was cool to learn in school, but that could also be self-taught. And it changes all the time. Like trends change and tactics and tools. And so I think my schooling was very like tactical. So it was like, okay, like this is how you like use this technology to produce this output. And it's like, okay, in 5 years when the technology changes, that education is no longer like relevant. So yeah, I think it's worth it, but it's not like it wasn't a requirement for my current like day-to-day
Yeah.
tasks.
I knew pretty quickly that like my grades weren't going to be the thing that got me a job. That's all. I think I was never big on school, so like I just knew that like okay, I had to get. So I had known like my mom where she worked. She was like, yeah, so just to apply here, your like resume gets auto filtered at like 3.2 GPA. Like you don't even get to like no one sees your resume if you have a lower than a 3.2. So in my head, and I had like heard like a 3.3 at like Lockmore, so for just auto filtered, right? So in my head, I was like, all right, I need to get above that so I don't get auto rejected. And then I also needed money, so I was like, all right, I'll just get internships. I'll fill my grades with like actual like, work experience. But for my current job, conveniently, like my job, my like what I learned in school did kind of help get the job itself. I don't do anything related to it, but I like it's something I've talked about. It's just like I think it was necessary to go to college, but
Oh,
not to
absolutely.
not for the skills that I use at my job. It was more so I don't end up like a bum. It was like, hey, still figure this. It's like Ryan, we always sending podcasts like entrepreneurs, like million, blah blah blah, and then there's like red pill YouTube of you don't need to go to college with all this like debt, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't. And probably Ryan's a little different because he's a robot and can wake up. I'm gonna execute all these tasks and get everything done. I'm not gonna wake up at like 18 years old and be like, I'm gonna study today if I don't have like the school, right? Like I would definitely have been a very productive bum, but a bum. Like I don't think a small business comes to like fruition until probably like my third, like junior year, like senior year of college. I didn't feel like I was an adult even until like then.
Yeah.
Definitely felt like a overgrown high schooler. Like that is.
I
Yeah.
didn't feel like an adult until like 2 years ago, dude. I don't know.
Well,
I
you
grew
weren't
up
thinking about a
fast.
job apparently, like for 4 years.
I still don't feel
No,
like an
dude.
adult, so you're good. You guys are both good.
You don't
Well,
feel
I
like
know I would not have given up my college experience ever because it's fun and I do think it kind of creates that like passion for something and whatever that looks like for you. But I do think it could probably be shortened because like to your point, like sophomore year, after sophomore year you probably could have figured out how to enter the workforce and like not be a bum to use your description, but. I think that
yeah.
the
Well,
4 year college gets pushed so far down everybody's throats, and we just go for it. But
so going out of state was worth it, right? Because like both Ryan and I, right? Like we were in state, so like even if we did go to college and do nothing with our lives afterwards, it's still not that bad when it comes to like in like tuition.
yeah, I remember when I got here from out of state, I was very excited to come to college, and probably halfway through first. I think if you can get through the first half of your first year, so your first semester, things. I think everybody that goes out of state probably experiences some sort of like homesickness or loneliness, especially when you're hanging out with like you guys who I went to ASU, one of the largest public, if not the largest, I don't remember where we're at, public universities in the country. And I didn't know a single other person. I didn't actually know anybody else in the state of Arizona. Like the closest relative I had was my brother up in Denver at the time. So what, an
It's not
8 hour
close.
drive or 13-hour drive and a, 2 hour flight, whatever. Not close at all. So there was that aspect. But I think after that first semester, you get over your like homesickness. I really do think it kind of it forces you to put yourself into positions that I don't think I would have ever like done. I was not a super outgoing, person in high school, so not one to break out of my shell. But I think I did do that when I got comfortable at ASU.
You didn't. You would say you wouldn't have broken out of shell, but you moved your ass across the country. Like that is pretty crazy.
Yeah, but you can do that with your shell still completely intact. You can shell up and get on an airplane. I mean, it's just the courage to take that first step,
Yeah, dude, I'm shocked to hear you say that because I would never define you as like quiet or like not outgoing or.
Well, I don't think I was ever. I don't think I was quiet. That might be disingenuous to say. I was never quiet, but like I do think I've always kept like a kind of close group of friends, and I've been very weary of like opening that up. I'll say, yeah. So, yeah.
That's so interesting.
So I know you asked us. So we gotta ask you: did your college education like inform your current role in like your day-to-day tasks, or do you think you could have done it like after 2 years of college?
Yeah, I don't think it hurt. I'll say that. I don't think it hurt. I think there's things that I got taught in college that if I had focused a little more and used that information, like it would have helped me a ton. But I don't think college was great for me because I don't think I was ready for it. Like if I were to go back in college now, I'd probably take notes and like show up to every class and like call into the Zoom meetings and utilize office hours and like things like that. Like when I was going, like especially those first 2 years, to Yash's point, it was how can I finish this homework assignment fast enough so I can go out and do whatever I want to do, or like, hey, so like it was never about absorbing the material. It was about checking a box. And I think if I would have entered into college, even 2 years later and had a little bit of work experience in my field, I could have greatly used that information a lot more efficiently than, it wouldn't have been just checking a box. It would have actually been some sort of absorption, but.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And we mentioned that a while ago where like, dude, I wish I talked to my professors more. Like they were probably like, I had a couple that were probably pretty interesting people that like could have had a lot of like good information to share if I just like opened my ears once in a while. But yeah, I share that sentiment.
Yeah, like I don't think all 4 years, I don't think I ever went to a single office hour. Like if I had a problem or a question, I just Googled it or asked a friend.
No way.
And like if that didn't help, then I probably got the question wrong on the test. Like I was not going to go out of my way to like meet up with this guy or girl or woman, I should say, probably.
Wow.
And like that was just not it wasn't on the cards for me. I wasn't going to do it. I don't know. And that was dumb.
Wow. I strategically went to office hours so that I could show my face for when the like deciding factor of the final came in. And they're like, does he pass or fail? And then they'll think like, oh yeah, like in the last month or so, he's shown up like every day at office hours. Oh, and it works. It works so well. You just got to show face. I obviously didn't know any of the content. That's why I'm, getting bad grades. So it's like,
dude, it sounds like all you learned in college was just like manipulation and like how to leverage people's emotions for like better grades.
When you put it like that.
When you put it like that, then maybe I did get some skills I use in my job every single day.
That's so funny.
Josh, do you learn so like now that you graduated and you like go to like, do you ever do like besides like learning like I guess like through osmosis, right? Being in the environment and having to like do things. Do you like set aside time to like learn new things? Like I know with like project management, there's like certification, like PMO or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you do that type of thing, or forklift certified, OSHA certified, like level whatever it
I
was?
am forklift certified. I am OSHA 30. Yeah. So there are some certifications that you have to keep up with. There are those like project manager certificates. Some of the softwares we use offer some certificates, and I've done some of those. My company offers some leadership like training programs that they bring in like an outside company to train, and I've been through those, but and I guess what college definitely didn't prepare me necessarily directly for is just all the people stuff that you have to do, like managing of people. Like it's not like part of my job is construction, but part of my job is leading the team around me or for the project, and that stuff is like definitely the stuff that I get trained more on, of like how to manage, my own emotions and, talk to people and communicate effectively and work through those things. So that's been the majority of the training, I'd say. And I think that's tough to teach in college, honestly. Like,
I was gonna ask, do you think that could have been taught?
I think if the right person could learn, but I think you really got to be, for at least for me, you got to get kind of thrown into that position where you have to do it. I mean,
Trial by
like
fire.
we had some like group projects and things in class, but those at least for the groups that I were in was mostly like, hey, let's meet up at the beginning, divide everybody's roles, responsibilities, have it done by this date. We'll meet up and submit it. And like there was not very little collaboration, I would say. I mean, I know I'm not like the everyone, but I'm definitely part of the college problem. But
Hmm. I guess I have one last question.
go for it.
Do you have a mentor, or would you seek one out? Going back to like Ryan's point of like, oh, if I had a college, like talk to college professors, like having a mentor.
I do not, and that in some of the leadership classes that I've been in, like that was like one of their biggest things was if you should have a mentor, and then you should have like direct one-on-one conversations about your career with either that mentor or if your mentor is your boss. And then now that I'm a boss, they're like anybody that works under you or directly reports to you, you need to be doing one-on-ones and like bare minimum, and it's on the to-do list for sure.
Dude, that sounds sweet. Yash has talked about that where Yash has a mentee. That sounds like so much fun. I don't have either. I don't have well, I have like a pseudo he's a little bit of a mentor. We don't talk often though. I usually just call him if I'm like really struggling. And then he's like, just do this. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Looks
Well,
nice,
so
right?
does your mentee, you are the mentor, do you guys work in the same industry or for the same company?
Yeah, she's in my same role, just like 1 or 2 years removed. Yeah, it's kick ass. You help her solve all these problems. You get a little, you feel like all like proud inside when they like actually do kick ass stuff, and you're like, hell yeah, I taught them everything they know. Like it's it's good, but the whole managing people, I'm having to do that, and like one of the I I find that really hard to do, like managing people, dealing with your own emotions and not calling them an idiot. Like
Yeah, no, it's definitely something new to me, and it's like, I guess I never envisioned it being as hard as it is. Like, I think you get out of college or whatever you're doing, and you're moving up in your career, and you're always like, oh, I'll be a manager, it'll be great, like I'll make decisions, but like you never really think back on like, oh, these decisions affect the way people feel, and like how I say things matter, and like we're always cognizant of that with like clients and things and outwardly, but like people under you or people even adjacent to you that you're like helping leaders, it's a whole nother like element to the work.
That's like I wasn't gonna say surprising, but a little surprising hearing that, just because I feel like your industry is such like good old boys that like I feel like their hands are like super I'm imagining just like a bunch of like meatheads in your office, dude, that could like lift like deadlift 1,000 pounds,
says tech bro
which
who lives in the
Yeah.
woods.
I think you guys might have a little bit of a skewed perception of what I do. I mean, there are some characters in the trades for sure, but there are also a lot of like very smart people. Like the guys that do like some of the like tradespeople do more math in a day than most of engineers nowadays. Engineers are just plugging numbers into a program that spits out something, or like these are the guys that are doing, arithmetic out here and trigonometry, laying out form work, and like they can do, pretty complex problems. And there are some meatheads for sure, but there are also a lot of like pretty technically advanced people. But again, my company doesn't self-perform anything. So most of the people I work with are like that are on my team are doing a similar job to me. They're managing some other trade or, that sort of thing. So it's a little different.
Yeah. I'll admit, I kind of realized my like mental image. I understood it was probably wrong, but it's more fun to imagine it that way.
I do wear a hard hat fairly often, so that'll help the image.
No,
There
I
we
was
go.
thinking more like, fairly heavy set people in the back of the country club smoking cigars, like really like thick smoker voices, like all that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're out there. I mean, every construction company is a little different for sure.
Yeah.
But I think back on your mentor thing, though, at least the way Yash is describing it, I think now that I work in the office now, I think I use the office for exactly what Yash is talking about. Like usually when I have a problem, I'll just like turn around and talk to someone about it. And I've even caught myself do it where I just talk a little bit louder than I would normally talk and just hope that someone passing by or in a nearby cubicle has solved that problem before, and then they jump over and they're like, "Hey, I've got a story to tell you." And we go for it. So, and I've done that too, where people there's I'm not in the conversation, but I hear a word or like a trigger word that I can help out with that, and I just jump in. So I think the office is the mentor in that case, which you guys living in your basements in the woods or in New York probably don't get as easy.
No, I'm at this point. I'm the one who help. I'm the coordinator of help.
Yeah,
Like getting there. But like, do you think you would want like Kevin's told me this a couple times of like he's had a mentor and the mentor like points in the right direction, but like I was thinking of someone like outside of like my like job, someone who'd be
yeah.
like, you should definitely leave that company, right? Like who's kind of like unbiased in a sense, like who can give you more like holistic career or like not life advice. Well, life advice, I've realized I gotta do trial and error. That's all I've realized. But the career stuff, it'd be nice to have like a person like that.
I feel like it's hard to have a mentor inside your company because there's an maybe not an ulterior motive, but like, I mean, they're not
There
going to give
has to
you
be
probably,
almost.
yeah, it's like, what do you really think? And they're the person that's been at the company for 10 years, and it's like, okay, I can probably like predict what they're going to say, you know?
No, yeah, I definitely agree. Especially now, like I feel like through COVID, especially in my industry, and I think other industries are experiencing it a lot, is a lot of people have switched jobs. And so now I've got friends that have left my company that have gone to other company who are always like, "Hey, how is it?" And they're like, I don't know. Then you never really, there's never a great time to leave, it feels like, if you wanted to leave or, go down
So
that
are you
path.
pro
So.
stay? Are you pro staying or pro leaving? And how long have you worked at your current place?
So I came right out of college. It's my first job for a major construction firm. I've been here for 5 years, and so and I have no plans on leaving. I'm happy, but in my back of my mind, like, there's always people leaving, and they're leaving for a reason. I'm guessing it's probably money or opportunity, one of those two things. I'm pro stay, but I think that's an older way of thinking. I think the newer generation is very much pro, like, if you see an opportunity or you're getting offered more money, like, work is never gonna. I think there's almost like a distrust of your companies, or at least larger companies, where you're like, I'm gonna jump ship. They don't actually care about me. I'm just a number type deal. But I don't know.
Pro stay. I'm almost 4 years now. Same thing. Same company.
Yeah.
Straight out of college. I feel like this is why everyone's always sad. They jump companies and they're like, well, 2 years in, they jump again and they go, my life's depressing. I don't know anyone at my job. Like, it's not fulfilling. And it's like, yeah, you meet with strangers every 2 years. Like, obviously, nothing feels fulfilling because you have no relationships anywhere. It's like,
Oh my! This
like,
is Yash's description of the depression epidemic that's currently happening.
no, this is
Just
like
stay
my
at your job,
description
y'all.
of these like people who are like, oh, like why should we have like capitalist America? Like, there's no I don't get fulfillment from going to my job every day. And it's like if you
Yeah.
go leave place to place for just cash alone, obviously it's not going to feel like great because you're not like my whole barometer is if I stop learning, then it's like maybe I should look at doing something else.
Yeah. Well, I always think like there's been, at least in my industry, I've heard some, just insane numbers getting like thrown out there for people to jump ship. And I'm like, if they're going to pay you that much, they're expecting something out of you. And so like, you got to really look at that number and be like, am I worth that? Is what I want to put into this company worth that amount of money? And two, it like, they're offering that amount of money to get you in the door. Is it always going to be that like that? Is there any opportunity to grow or to move up in the company, or is that just your number and that's how it's going to be? And I feel like we are targeted, and I say we, the people that are in the younger like entry level parts of their career are the more susceptible to being able to poach like that than the people that have been more involved in their career over the last 20 years.
Ryan, how much like percentage wise added to your like annual salary would it take for you to do a job you don't like? And then Josh, I want you to know, like to leave, to get poached, and you go to a company similar field, and Ryan, you'd have to go in your case a project. It's like things you know how to do, but it's like you kind of like you don't want to do it that much. Like how much more of like your annual salary or your annual like revenue would you have to make for you to jump ship and do that?
For me, I think I get requests like this often, and I usually quote them quite a bit more than I like would typically do that project for. It's usually in the ballpark of like, I don't know, 30 to 60% higher if it's not something I want to do. And if it's depends on the size. If it's something I know I can do quickly, then I usually like double the cost if it's something I don't want to do, because then that's just like a great ROI. I'm in a state though where I'm like, it didn't used to be like this, right? So yeah, I'm lucky enough to like have the opportunity to turn down work and like name my price. So, but that wasn't always the case. I did a website for like $15 an hour. I think one of my early ones. Yeah. So like
Minimum wage, like
I made,
holy
yeah, I think I
shit.
charged them like, yeah, $500 for the like a whole like 10-page website redesign and develop. So yeah, but whatever. So we're here now. So I don't know. That's a tough question to answer though. It definitely lands on a spectrum.
But 30 to 60.
Yeah,
Where are
well,
you, Josh?
my mind immediately went to 50%, and I guess I'll caveat it similar to Cadby is like assuming that my, personal life situation doesn't change and like the market stays the same. Like I think my number goes to 50, but if I was unhappy or not completely happy at my current role, that number probably goes down a little bit. And the market is a little bit wishy-washy here, whatever that looks like, that probably changes as well, but I'll say 50.
Now, jumping ship, 50% increase. I can see. Oh, dude, it just sounds like too much work. I'll be honest. Leaving company, it's like, oh,
Well, like, especially, I don't know if it's similar with you guys, but like we get, I've got, a good supplier base, a good client base, and it's just like having to go out and like find new clients and work with new subcon. Like I've got like in construction, we call them guys. Like you have a problem. Oh, I've got a guy for that. And you just call your guy, right? Like it's usually a guy that's been in in your company structure for a while. You've used them on other jobs. It's like, he fixes my problems. Like I've got a steel guy. If I have a steel problem, there's a guy I call, and if I jump ship, I don't have that guy anymore. I gotta find all new guys.
Isn't that kind of enticing though? Like to go and like, all right, you gotta like figure it out. Like, all right, you gotta like, let's say you wanted to start. Could you wait? Okay, let me take a second. Could you just be like, oh, I'm gonna start a general contracting business tomorrow? Like, or is that space like filled? Like, do you need to be like fairly established to like?
I think you could. I think you would struggle being like super successful, at least at the scale that my company is building at. But like if you wanted to start out small and work, yeah, people do that all the time. But I think the statistics are construction companies are the second most failed business, only behind restaurants and bars. I think that I
Whoa.
could be pulling that out of my butt, but there are a whole bunch of like mom and pop like construction companies that just start up and fail. Like it's especially, and that fact could have also been skewed by the whole like 2008 like home builder crisis and things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I have no like what Ryan does like work for himself. Like I have no interest in ever doing that. Like
Really?
there's parts of business that like I don't want to deal with ever. Like I don't want to be that. Like I like making decisions and I like leading teams, but
You could outsource all of those things you don't like to do. Would you do it?
yes, but I think for a time you would have to do them before you outsource. Like no company starts from the ground up and you get to hire an accountant and HR representative. Like you don't like that. Usually the way I understand it is you start a company as one, maybe two, you and a partner, maybe you have some people under you, but like you don't have any of those things. You are the HR representative, you are the accountant, you are accounts payable, receivable, like that's you. And then as you grow, the CEO or whoever started it gets to chip off a couple of those things every year or two, whatever that looks like for your growth rate, and do it like that. And that part of it, I would not want to do that.
I don't blame you. It can be, dude, it can be. I mean, I only have myself to manage, and it can be like, yeah. There are days I wake up and I'm just like, I just wish I could just clock in, someone would tell me what to do, and then leave when it's over. Some days are just headaches, and yeah, those thoughts creep in. But
So you would never open a business, even if it was an overly extravagant extra bar where the theme of the bar changes colors all the
I
time.
said,
I've thought about opening a restaurant or a bar. Like I've thought about it. Like I thought that would be like a nice retirement business. Like you made your gold, like, your little goose egg.
yes. I like I said, well, I think my statement was I would never open a general contracting firm. That would not be the fun part. A bar, yes. I think I could see myself doing that.
Okay, so it's got to be a fun business, and then you're all in.
Yeah. Or like we used to have this like really crappy driving range next to like where I lived, and I'm like, this got to be like the easiest business to own at all. Like there's like one like crappy tractor with like mesh all over that goes around, picks up the balls, and then there's one like ball machine that you dump the balls in, they clean, and it collects quarters, and then what else do you do? Like pay the bills and move on. Like
it's like, it sounds like one of those, like a laundromat or
yeah,
like car
exactly.
wash kind of like format where it's like super boring, super low maintenance. Like your margins are very
Well,
like cut and dry. Like there's no like improvements or disimprove. Like the market is very standardized. So like it works here, it'll work everywhere else kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah, dude. Those are dope. I like those models.
Yeah, that would be a great business to own. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the driving range though that could, I mean, if it's as long as it's not super crappy, it could fit into like the luxury model where like not people are always going to go to a laundromat and wash their clothes. I think at some point your profit dips on a driving range because not everybody needs a driving range.
No, if you do, you need a driving range if you want to play golf.
Not everybody wants to play golf.
It's a rising sport, dude. I think I've been thinking about like, dude, you invent a Roomba instead of someone going out there and like collecting all those balls. You invent a little Roomba that collects the balls and it's just automated
You just do like what
and it cleans the balls.
Top Golf has that I think essentially is just like like a false bottom in those that just like funnels down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a pig for
What?
sure. Hitting a
That's
funnel.
how that works?
Well, not every like Topgolf has those targets that you hit, right? And like when you hit that, it goes into, I'm assuming, some sort of catch basin. They still have a cart that drives around that picks up the stuff that doesn't fall in that,
Oh, okay.
but yeah.
I thought the whole thing was just like tilted slightly. Oh, well, that wouldn't make sense because then you'd always hit the targets,
Pinball.
huh? Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
for a
exactly.
driving range that doesn't have that, I mean, yeah, that would probably be, you're probably getting into some really big overhead costs of trying to tilt the entire plane of your driving range to where it would shed ball water.
Well, and then distance would play a factor, right? Like now your distance of how far actually out it is, it's like got to be hitting
Yeah.
down.
Yeah,
Like
No, I think the Roomba is the solution here. That's like the lawnmower
yeah,
robots, you know?
yeah.
yeah,
You seen
the same
those?
company
Yeah.
makes them.
I
Yeah.
feel like for a pretty cheap cost, you get like a teenager from the local high schooler and give them a job, though.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
do you think you could fit a Roomba into construction like in your world today? Like
Yeah,
do you think there's a version of a Roomba that would like solve for like
no,
anything?
there's actually been some really cool developments in that sort of space with construction where it looks exactly like a Roomba. They have like a little it, I'm gonna say it's a Roomba, but it like goes through a build. You give it a control point, like a CAD control point. You input the CAD file in, and it'll go around a slab and it'll draw like with like marker almost, like it's like
Like
a
chalk?
paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a more like a paint or a marker, but it'll draw all your lines where your walls are, and it'll do all your layout for you. And so then the guys come down and they put their bottom track and they shoot it to the ground and they start building walls, stud walls. And they do the same thing with drones now too. Similar thing, but like if you bought like just a dirt plot of land, there's a drone that you can input like the GPS coordinates of the spot and it'll go out and it'll drop like a literal nail pin on where your building
Property line
corner
is.
is, or like here's the center of this catch basin. Like it has that level. And we work with a local area like drone company that has a drone like that does it. It's pretty cool.
What?
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Dang.
dude. I construction is get like the tools and things that we use. I mean, I think it's going to take a really long time for them to get generally accepted, especially our like skilled labor is getting very old. Like we don't have like not many young people are going into the trades, and that's something that my company talks about a ton is just, what is going to happen when everybody that used to do construction retires and nobody knows how to do it. But I think the path forward is technology. And I think we've talked about it before. Like most, if not all of our like really high industrial buildings are being built in a 3D model, like a BIM model through like a Revit or Navisworks. And so we're building everything, or the architect and engineer are building and modeling everything in a computer in a 3D space, so we can fly through it, we can show owners it, we can do takeoffs, we can do schedules all like in this 3D space before the project's ever built. And then as the project's being built, we can go around with an iPad or phone and it's like you can, look at a wall and on the screen it'll show you what's supposed to be there eventually. So, I mean, there's a ton going into that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
that's so sick. Yeah. I remember when you told me about that, I was like, that's the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Well, and
super cool.
there's even like headsets now to mimic the iPad. You can just wear the headset and kind of look around. One of my jobs when I first got to my company, it's called reality capture, and it's basically I had to wear this helmet with a 3D camera. It was a Garmin camera on top. It looked really, really stupid. But I had to walk and it had a GPS in it, and so I'd go on my plans. It was connected to my iPad, and I had to select where I was on the plans, so like kind of a control point. And then it basically took a picture and mapped and videoed the entire like space as I walked it and tied it back to a point on the plans, right? So you get that kind of triangulated
Mm.
location, and then it could build like a point cloud of what that existing structure was. So if you bought a house and you didn't have building plans for it because it was built in like
Mm.
1920, you could build this 3D model with just walking around with this camera on your head.
Hmm.
So,
Holy shit.
yeah. It's all the stuff that you guys are working on. We've just dumbed it down to help
Well,
us.
that's like the biggest market. Like I only work with like manufacturers. Like you solve like such simple problems. Like that's like the whole like if you don't have a plan and now we've created a plan but we've done it fast, right? Like the simple
Yeah,
problem, but like
yeah,
the scale of that problem is so massive. Like your opportunity is huge. If you could
yeah,
just figure out how to solve for it, it's usually simple on the outside, complex on the inside, right? The amount of
yeah.
use cases that you probably have to solve for to do that is crazy, but it's insane. It's like, damn, without all this technology, houses and buildings are still being built at like insane rates.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is like even it, and that's where I was getting to. Like, I think it's taking a while for people to accept the technology, at least in the construction space, because like when we create these beautiful 3D models that are like detailed down to like the nail or screw that goes into something, but we still have to submit our plans to the city on a flat white sheet of paper. Like the
Mm.
city won't even review them. They don't want them on, or they won't look at it. Like I don't get a permit, and like that's what gets printed. So we have to take that 3D model and condense it down or expand it out, basically, to a flat set of plans that we give to the city, and then we go give to the tradesmen, and that's what they build off of. And like almost none of them are working in this CAD or
Whoa.
even 3D space.
Wow.
And some
That's
like
nutty.
on the private side, like we have this possibility to build, like BIM's pretty expensive, but some owners won't even pay for it because it's like you don't need it to build it. I'm not going to use it once it's built, and the city won't accept it. So it's like, what am I really
Mm.
paying for? But like the higher end users are using it, and they use it for future development, and then they do like energy modeling and things like that. They tie it into their building automation systems and stuff like that. So it's becoming more of a thing, but it used to be like you paid, $200,000 just to get BIM on your job. So
Whoa.
not
Yeah.
everyone
That's
love
nutty.
not everyone loves technology like you guys do.
They just
Yeah,
haven't
that's
seen the
fair.
light. They haven't seen the light. They haven't drank the Kool-Aid. Put me in a room with them. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it'll become a bigger and bigger thing as we move forward. You have to, right? Adapt or die.
Well, yeah, no one's going to be welding anything anymore. We need to make robots that do it.
Well,
It's the only way.
you've seen those like things on like social media where they're like 3D printing houses, and I think the
3D printing organs, like it's
I
crazy.
think the cooler ones I saw,
Yo,
yeah.
not everyone's on red pill YouTube as deep as you
No,
are,
I
Yash.
learned that at school in my classes. Like,
When they're growing them in like petri dishes too, right? I
yeah,
guess yeah, that's
I've
crazy.
heard about that. Yash is on some weird, dark, red pill YouTube watching
all right,
organs get printed.
Ryan. When you leave your cabin in the woods, you start to learn about what's happening in the world. Okay.
All right, all right. Yeah, this is definitely a me thing. You know.
I'm kind of with Yash here, just mostly because I'm frequently on Reddit. So
All right, yeah, all right. I'm out of the loop here. But I have seen 3D printed houses
yeah,
and all sorts of other stuff, just not like human flesh yet.
I'm sure it's coming. Well, you can do like skin grafting. That's like similar. You just like take it off your thigh and put it on your wherever you need to. Grows back. The human body is incredible, man.
It is pretty incredible. All right, here, I don't even know how we've been on for a while. Do we want to run through some of these ideas? I want to talk about colors because when you told me about this, I got super. This is the one that hasn't left my head. So Josh is an idea guy. We all know we love ideas around here. So he sent over some of his in an email to us beforehand. But did you? I think I forwarded this to you, Josh. You got it right. Yeah. So yeah, give us the elevator pitch for colors because this is like your exit plan after you state your job for 50 years.
Yeah, yeah. When I get to retire, well, I think colors was probably not the end idea. It's probably a bar, but colors was a bar. I forget where we even were where we came up with it, but basic.
I think we were in
I want to say
Austin.
it was awesome because essentially it's just a super like extravagant bar where the whole premise of it is that it is all one color. So you like imagine walking into a bar, the walls are blue, the floor is blue, the drinks are blue, people are wearing blue uniforms, chairs are blue, you go into the bathroom, the urinal's blue, sink is blue, like the lights are blue, everything's blue. And then one day you show up and everything is yellow, like just all over the place. And so, like, it's just a color theme bar. It's very gimmicky, but like, I think it would work in in a college town like Austin or Tempe, because I think the whole novelty of like, oh, what color is it going to be today? And obviously, there's some logistical challenges with and overhead costs with changing colors all the time.
Oh, you start a subscription fee for people who are allowed to choose what colors it's going to be for the next month, and then you rotate
Well, and that's what
colors.
I think. I think you could do it kind of at random, kind of monthly, whatever makes sense. I know I've pitched this to my parents. I've pitched it to friends. I think I pitched it to Ryan's parents. Like I've pitched colors all over the world here. And a lot of the feedback that I've gotten that was good was like, oh, you should like the special occasions. Like I think the best one that I heard was like breast cancer month, like everything's pink. Because I don't think that everybody registers that, but you just like show up and one day colors is pink and you're like, oh wait, what is this? Oh, it's a half off drink. It's breast cancer awareness month, and then you have some philanthropy piece of that as well. Or like 4th of July, red, white, and blue, or St. Patrick's Day has green, and Christmas is easy, red, green, that white, that sort of thing. So
This is totally doable.
yeah,
You can
Yeah,
totally
dude,
do
I,
this.
I love
Like,
I love
well, I
this
also
idea.
think
because there's literally places here in New York that are like Instagram spaces.
yes, yeah.
Like they're literally like they're meant for you to. It's not cool to look at in real life. Like it's like, okay, so what? But when you take a picture of yourself in front of it, that's
Well,
cool.
and that's what this bar is not anyone's like go-to home watering hole. Like nobody's hitting this bar every Thursday night to watch Thursday night football, or they're not like this is a stop on to like buy to take a picture or like whatever, see what's new that day, except for the day that the color changed or the night that colors changed. Because I think that could be another option of where you get people and like you make them sign like a super deadly NDA, and you're just like, you're not allowed to tell people what color it is because we're going to do it overnight. You pay a certain amount of fee, you come here, you drink for free, you paint everything whatever color, and then
Dude, and you let people gamble on
yeah,
it. You set a line. You set a line.
yeah, depending on what state you're in, like yeah, like something like that. Like I think there's so much that can be done. Like it is, I'm first one to admit that it is a very gimmicky bar. I think it loses its luster after a couple of times. But if you can keep adding little things, and that's what's cool about it being in like a college bar scene, or even like a really popular bar scene that people know as a bar scene, like a Vegas, you're getting so much turnover of the people. Like in college, you're getting a whole new group of people every year that are coming to that bar when they turn 21 and now they're old enough to go to that bar. Vegas, same thing. It's just kind of a rotation of tourists. So you only have to catch up with the new group of people every once in a while. So I think it could work in that aspect. But
If Rainforest Cafe worked and they charge like $35 for a crappy burger, like I think if you have like semi good food, like food that's like, oh, actually that was good, or like even kick ass food, I think
yeah,
people would show
especially
up.
you remember growing up, or maybe it was just me. We remember when like Shrek first came out, they had the green ketchup, the movie Shrek. Yeah,
Oh
I think it
yes,
was
yeah,
green.
yeah,
Yeah, we could
yeah.
make some green ketchups.
It was
Yeah.
mayonnaise or something. No, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was something nobody should have been eating, but that's what they used to do to promote movies. Yeah, no, Colors has been like, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I've pitched it to everybody that will listen. So thanks for the opportunity to to further it down the road. Honestly, at this point, I hope someone just builds it so I can go.
Yeah, that would be sweet. It kind of
Wanna do
reminds
it.
me. It kind of reminds me. What was that place? I'm spacing the name now, in Denver, where it was like it's just like an Instagram spot, basically.
Meow Wolf.
Meow Wolf, and there's a restaurant,
Oh
Happy
yeah,
Camper, and it's just like everyone goes there to like take a picture at the fire pit or like
yeah.
whatever it is, and the food's just super expensive. Like, yeah, that's all it is. And I think that's I think part of colors, I think that's how you would make it profitable. But other than that, I think it'd still be fun. I imagine, yeah,
I
it
mean,
would
I think if
be.
it's well, I think if
I
it's
think you
well
change the
run, it's
color.
a fit. Like, because I don't know, especially now in my older age, like I don't like to go to bars with crappy service if there's decent food and decent price. Like there's the whole other part of it just being a decently run bar that factors in. Like you can have as gimmicky as you want, but if your drinks suck and you have slow service or whatever, like so there's you got to be good at both, to really make that like Instagrammable thing work. So
Hmm. Yeah.
it could work.
Yeah.
I would just
Like
hire like John Tafford. There's no way that he could
like what's it
bar
called?
rescue.
From like
Yeah,
a
bar
dive bar.
rescue.
What's it? Yeah, bar rescue.
Yeah, that guy knows bars. Maybe I should email him and just like pitch him my idea and just see if he shoots it down immediately.
Oh, you have to make a
Yeah.
pitch like video, and you're just like all in like what's all in one color.
And I
Yeah.
just slowly change like randomly through it, just like clip myself in different colors and be like, it'll be just like this. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. It has a lot of potential. Ton of potential.
If you got funding for colors, would you and you could go out and build it? Would you go do it? This is a very
Yeah, I don't know,
hypothetical.
like funding, like if someone was gonna give me the like down payment construction costs and or look,
So you got like 5 years of runway.
oh, 5 years? Do I have to stick?
Yeah,
Do
let's
I
assume you get 5 years of
do I have
runway.
if I change away from colors and just can revert back to like a normal bar? Do I lose my funding? Like if colors just
No,
fails?
no, you got to pivot, dude. You got to
Yeah.
survive.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think do I have to pay back the runway costs if it fails?
Yeah, the business.
uh,
Yeah. You
it's an angel investment. It's
yeah.
pre-seed. It's free money.
Yeah, I would take a shot at it. I do. I think it would be. I would prefer it to be a college town. I think I'm biased though because I'm not a huge fan of Vegas or like Miami or New Orleans. Wouldn't be that bad. I feel like you could do something there. But
And there are always colors there. New Orleans,
yeah,
like purple, green, like
Mardi
you got
Gras would
that
be
unlocked.
easy. Yeah,
Mardi Gras, St. Patrick's
yeah,
Day, like
yeah. No,
oh, it could be a rotating bar. Like you don't actually ever own one place, and you go to like certain bars, like you partner with their bars, and like it's a whole secret event, and they like choose, and you build like this huge community of like this is where it's gonna be, like and you do like you drop these little information, they try and guess where it is, and then you
yeah.
just transform like an iconic bar in that city.
Yeah, I no, that's actually a good point because then you have very little overhead costs because you don't have a rent. I feel like if you could find instead of making it a color, you just do like a color party, and where you like we've done those like
Mm.
what was that like Life in Color? Did you ever go to one of the
Day
Dayglow?
glow.
Yeah, like you do it like that, but you just like rent out an iconic bar, and then you find I think that was like some non-toxic paint wannabe that they used to spray all over you. It did ruin my phone the one
I
time
hope
I
so. Yeah.
went. But you just do that in a bar. And then you like your only costs are instead of paying like rent and like cleaning up stuff or in painting stuff, you just pay that bar for cleanup that one night. You split the profits.
It could be a special segment on bar rescue where they're like finding these under like these like bars that are run down, and you're like, all right, bringing in the color experts. We're gonna solve this.
Your bar's the wrong color. It needs to be red. Yeah, no, I think that would work well.
All right, draft up the pitch deck. We'll get this going.
It'll be a very easy PowerPoint. It's just all color.
No words.
My business card's gonna be those like color swatches you get at Lowe's.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
a color for every event.
yeah. I like it.
Yeah, lots to think about. That one's still. I think that must have been like 3 or 4 years ago that we came up with that one.
Yeah, it's still, dude. Yeah, I still think about it. I think there's something to it. Keeps me up at night. Okay.
When you think about it, what color?
I know.
When I pictured this or when I started describing it, I will say, what color came to your mind?
Blue, because like I think just like Blue Man
Yeah,
Group and like I think I'm imagining like people, the servers are like painted
yeah,
green, like the cups are blue, or like everything is literally that color. I mean, I think it's
I feel like the other aspect maybe that we didn't get, you could partner. Like, what if we did change it to blue, and on the blue transition night, we partnered with the Blue Man Group, and they just came in. Same thing when we partnered with like Pink, the artist, and she did a show.
Oh, there's 2 colors already. Why? This is easy.
Or I'm sure there's other ones. Or if we do, when we do green, we'll do like Shrek green. We'll have a guy dress up like
White
Shrek,
stripes.
and we'll bring in a donkey to walk around the bar. White
yeah, dude.
stripes.
The
there you
overhead is
go.
like growing by the minute here.
Black Sabbath.
Oh. Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Oh, there we go.
Nice.
Really, we're becoming an entertainment company. Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of a concert venue at this point. But we could. There's other things that have. We could partner with like food vendors that have colors in their names, or restaurants. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's getting a little complicated now. Lots of colors to think about here.
Lots of overhead. You're right, Candy. You're right.
Oh, but you could fit the other 2 ideas you sent over into this one idea, right? You could have drive-through spaghetti, and then you could also have boyfriend pictured like taking in this one place.
That is true.
Mm.
That is true. The Gettysburg was something that I think I attribute to my dad to catch everyone up. The Gettysburg is a gourmet drive-through spaghetti, which you wouldn't think goes together, but I think so. My dad is a culinary arts degree, and we were talking about like why don't like we get all these like soups and salads in like a bread bowl, like that's pretty common. But why is pasta like spaghetti not served in a bread bowl? Like that's just delicious, right? It's probably because most people don't eat like we do, like carbs or matter or whatever that is. But
You're
it's
just
like
eating carbs with
yeah,
spaghetti in a bread
a pasta bread bowl sounded amazing, but then my dad was like, "What if you do it in a cone, like a bread, like you press garlic bread into a cone, and then I was like, oh, it's to go.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in a drive-through, call it Spaghettisburg."
Yep, I like it too. A lot of food. We got 2 like restaurant things right now.
Yeah.
Josh, you latched onto this photography class, which, yeah, I think Josh and I talked about it before, but I think it could be like super low maintenance. You just outsource the course building, and then you just start like marketing it. But basically, all right, you go ahead and explain it, Josh. I don't think you'll do it justice here.
Well, you jump in because I think you had a better grasp on like what it would actually look like. I can give like I guess the way it came about was, being in a relationship and being asked to take photos of like a significant other or even a group of your friends. And I am like the lead, like I have the iPhone mini. Like I don't have photography is not like one of my energizers. And so it was always bad. I was always getting chastised or made fun of, or like, you're so horrible. Or it got to the point where it's like certain groups of people where they were like, hey, can you take a photo? Oh, no, not you. Like, I'll ask a stranger. And it's just like, dang, like, that's not fun, but like, I understand it. Like, I agree with them. I mean, I'm not good at taking photos, but I like started saying like, just teach me, like, give me the basics. Like, I don't want to hear about the word aperture or like lens or like what. I don't want to be a photographer, but there's got to be like a like quick course, like do's and don'ts. Here's where the sun is. Watch your shadow. Like that sort of level of thing for dumb dudes like me. I know I'm not the only one that takes stupid, bad photos of people they care about. And like put it in a form that I would take. Like, so whether that's like an in-person class or like even like, I think one of the first like iterations that got thrown around was like some sort of like TikTok video where you have like some sort of influencer, someone that has, a photography background with a following that says, hey, we're going to go through a couple scenarios that everybody does. that like, hey, we're at the beach, here's the beach session of photos and where to put the sun and where to stand at the beach and where you should pose and that sort of thing. And here's the top of a mountain, because I think we were also in Hawaii when we were doing this, so that filtered into it was, you have this beautiful background, like what do you want to see, like what's the ideal, again, dumbed down for dumb guys like me that don't care about photography, that want to just like stop getting yelled at for taking bad photos, or like feeling bad that they'd rather ask a strange man to take photos of them than their boyfriend or significant other or friend or whatever that looks like. But I do think Josh, you're like kind of pivot with what the Airbnb experience and like wrapping that into some sort of in-person class could be cool too.
Yeah, like it was something Ryan had talked about. Like, would you ever like, all right, like, would you ever have a weekend job, like a side hustle? Yeah. Like, so we were there, like, okay, like, what would be the easiest when we were traveling in Mexico, Colombia? These guys would just be like, oh, I ride. They pick you up in their like truck, and they've got a few mountain bikes, and you ride like 3 miles one way, and then you swim in a pool in the forest. And they're making, they're clearing great money, and I'm like, dude, like if you could find like these like small little things that are like once you solve for it once, it's just rinse and repeat, and you make good money, right? Like it's like a few $100 a week. Like that's like, so I always think back to like Airbnb experiences. Great, there's a steady base of people who are always there. If they're traveling to your city, they might use it. And then if you always know, you can always teach these people how to like where to take a picture, how to take the picture, especially in reference to like wherever the location is. And then it's like perfect.
Well, and they can even take you to like the lesser known spot, because like I've done some like traveling, and like there's those iconic photos that you want to get, but you're gonna like when you get there, then and there's a line of like 40 people waiting to take a photo. You're like, maybe this isn't the best one. So if you have like a local person or experience, they're like, oh, actually this one will get you the same photo, no line, or hey, we should go at this time because nobody's ever there, or like sunset works here, but sunrise is better here. Like I think that kind of colloquial knowledge of being a local, it would be a cool experience. I think from the original idea of being that like kind of shamed boyfriend or friend, like having the kind of virtual teaching was very much so like easier to palate, because I don't have to like confront the problem face on. I can just learn virtually.
Well, I was thinking of like an app that you open it up instead of the camera app, and then it basically reads where you are. Like it could use like your location, and then it just says like, okay, like you take the picture through that app, and it tells you like, all right, like you should do like this, like, or whatever it is. Or you could say like, oh, it's like you choose a theme. It's like girl, your girlfriend with her friends.
Yeah.
Like they're like, you need to choose it. It's like, all right, you want to shoot from this high
Be
up.
candid. Yeah, I don't know. Well, no, so that's where I think I went on to say, like, I think it could also be like, even if it was locally and you just wanted to do it with like a group of your close friends or something, like, so one of those like wine and paint classes, or like I've done like where you get a bottle of wine and like the pottery classes even. But if you had like a group of people, or you and your significant other, or like you and like 4 people, and then you're with, some strangers as well, where they like serve you dinner, and you can bring your own wine, or they serve you wine, and you have like sort of like a classroom setting of like, here's basic do's and don'ts, and then you go out and like travel, and you're like, hey, we're gonna go to this point and we'll practice and we'll give you some pointers, that sort of thing. I think that could be a fun, almost like a date night type deal with that sort of learning photography in a little bit easier setting than just being like paying to be shamed, I guess.
A shamed boyfriend experience.
Yeah.
Josh wants to get wine and dine before he's publicly
yeah, absolutely.
shamed.
A little bit of liquid courage for sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
But I think when the original thing came on, I think we had called it like Better Boyfriend App. And it was basically a series of classes. Photography was like one of them, but you could go into almost like a newsletter of like, here's like good gift ideas, or like like filter out like anniversary gift ideas. Here's like filter out to 1 year, 3 year,
Bro, you have a
4 year, 5
forum
year.
of
Yeah,
boyfriends.
like it's a Reddit
Yeah.
r
It's a
slash
Reddit.
boyfriend, and it's just a bunch of dudes trying to help other dudes stay, competitive in the boyfriend market. Yeah, I don't know.
Dude, big fan. It's $5 a month to join. You can only you can't post your own question, like your
Yeah,
own like issue, unless you
yeah.
pay. But you could like read through the pre-submitted
Well, and that's
stuff.
yeah. I think photography is the tip of the iceberg. Gifts, like if you got it down to like destinations or travel destinations, you could do like travel guides or like more romantic places or like things
Yeah,
to stay.
basic bitch restaurants like in
Yeah,
every location.
Instagrammable restaurant like Happy Camper or whatever that looks like, and
Yeah.
I think there's again, it's someone taking that initiative. I'm not interested enough in it, but like maybe I would use it. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I think this snowballed a while ago when we were talking about it, and I don't know if it was you or Josh, but we were like, yeah, it basically like order flowers for your girlfriend on Valentine's Day. It would send her like her birthday
So
gift.
smart.
Like you input basically all your like metadata on your significant other, and it would like schedule, you give it a budget, and it would like basically schedule these things. So it'd be like, all right, every on third Thursday of the month, you bring home like whatever her favorite like burrito place or whatever it
Yeah,
is, and it's just like you're the perfect boyfriend because of this app. It's like
I just if you could enter in like their dietary restrictions and it print out like a list of good restaurants that have like favorable menus towards like gluten free or vegan or whatever that looks like. I know that doesn't apply to everyone, but or even just like their preferences. Like I really like margaritas, like the best margarita
Dude,
restaurants.
there's so many ways to take
Yeah.
this, like it's unreal. And then you do the broken up
Yeah.
package, and it's like you go from $5 a month to ten
And here's
dollars
the
a
red
month,
pill
and it's like how to
Instagram.
get back in the game.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I think that one does snowball and it becomes so encompassing that like other people have done it, but it's also like this is one package, so probably harder to build and scale, but
This just turns into Playboy magazine, but
yeah.
digital. Like eventually, just like men's tips and naked.
Well, and I also do think I think part of the problem with like the r slash Reddit boyfriend is that most people are probably bad boyfriends. So like using a crowdsourced like men's forum to make decisions on your love life is probably going to end you in like a world of being broken up with. But I think if you like for
I can see
photography and
that.
things like that, like if you used expert advice, then I think you could probably get out of it. And that's why my like on the photography
Oh,
class thing, my mind always went to like you got to find like the right photography, like either Instagram, famous influencer type deal, like people that are taking like good portrait photography and get them on board to teach or to instruct or take over a session would be critical.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
But there's already there's why like my sales guy I work with, he was showing me a picture of like his wife. He's like, look, do you see like how great she looks? There's AI that replaced like what clothes she was wearing, necklaces, thing look
Oh,
executive. Like had to like basically like fix the image, made it look good, replace like oh needed to add a necklace here, added earrings,
yeah.
all of that. And it's just a filter they
Yeah, that gets a
apply.
little dicey. That's why we have the rise of like film cameras again. No cheating film cameras.
Yeah, then you could blame the shitty picture on
maybe
film.
maybe that's my move. Is I just get like a bunch of Polaroids. I'm like, yeah, the sun's bad today. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
You do get into photography. It's just
Yeah,
film
there you go.
photography.
Mm-hmm.
That would work.
Cool. Well, I think, yeah, we've been on a while. I think we ran through all your ideas. This has flown by. It's been a lot of fun. Anything else you want to share? Any initiatives? I want to maybe solicit some clout here. Throw your ad up there and get some Instagram
No,
followers.
no, I'm not a big social media guy.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, man. This has been fun. I think that's the pod. We'll see y'all later. Peace.